Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into a classic. And I mean a truly legendary story. The one about a super dangerous journey down the rocky road from Jerusalem to Jericho. But listen, we aren't just doing a history lesson here. We're actually going to uncover a timeless moral lesson about the absolute duty of compassion. It's a lesson that is kind of going to challenge our very definition of community. So let's jump right into the thick of it. Let's just frame our entire analysis around one central, huge philosophical question that this source text seeks to answer. What does it actually mean to be a good neighbor? I mean, think about it. In our modern world, we usually think of a neighbor as, well, just the person who happens to live next door, right? It's literally just a geographic term. But the text we're unpacking today, it completely forces us to look at this concept through an entirely different lens. It challenges us to see the word neighbor not as a coincidental location, but as an active, deliberate choice. Section 1, the road to Jericho. So our narrative kicks off with some sudden, really tragic circumstances. This timeline right here brilliantly illustrates just how fast a lone traveler's situation escalated from a simple, everyday journey to an absolute life-threatening crisis. 1 minute, he's just traveling, right? Minding his own business on the way down from Jerusalem. And then bam, he encounters robbers. But it doesn't stop at a basic mugging. The text specifically points out that they stripped him, beat him, and then just went away, leaving him half dead. He's left completely vulnerable, incapacitated, and in desperate need of an immediate rescue. Honestly, the severity of his condition really sets the stakes for everyone else who's about to walk into this story. Section 2, those who passed by. Now, here is where it gets crazy, because this beaten man wasn't the only person on that road. What's super striking here is the massive contrast between the fancy titles of the people who find the man and their total lack of action. First, a priest comes walking down the road. Then a Levite shows up. Both of these guys hold significant religious and social standing. They are the VIPs, Yet, despite all that status, their reactions are absolutely identical. The text notes that they both saw him, meaning they fully recognized his desperate, bleeding state, but they actively chose to pass by on the other side of the road. It wasn't ignorance. No, it was intentional, calculated apathy. They literally put physical distance between themselves and the suffering. Section 3, the unexpected rescuer. Okay, so the whole dynamic completely shifts when a totally unlikely traveler stumbles onto the exact same horrific scene, a Samaritan. Now, unlike the cold apathy of the first two guys, his response is this overwhelming sequence of immediate, tangible actions. Just look at the very first step here. It all starts because he felt compassion. That internal feeling instantly translates into outward intervention. He marches right up to the man. He bandages his wounds, literally pouring on oil and wine to treat them right there in the dirt. Then he physically hoists this half-dead man onto his own animal, walks him all the way to an inn, and personally takes care of him. I mean, it is just an incredible, hands-on display of involvement. But wait, there's more. The really crucial point here is that his care didn't just stop at basic first aid on the side of the highway. The very next day, the Samaritan pulls out 2 denarii and hands them over to the innkeeper. He didn't just do a hit-and-run drop-off and wash his hands of the whole mess. He actually told the innkeeper, "Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I return, I will repay you." He leveraged his own finances. It's kind of like handing over a blank check, right? Promising to come back and cover any extra expenses out of his own pocket just to make sure this total stranger makes a full recovery? Incredible. Section 4, redefining the word neighbor. At this point, the story pivots so beautifully. It goes from just recounting physical events into a direct philosophical challenge for the listener. The text poses this brilliant question: which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell into the robber's hands? By dropping the specific question, the narrative completely flips the script on us. It forces us to actively evaluate the actions we literally just witnessed. It asks us to look at the priest, the Levite, and the Samaritan and totally rethink what the word neighbor actually entails. It's suddenly no longer about who shares your zip code, it's about who actually steps up when you're lying in the ditch. And the answer the text provides? It's brilliantly simple, yet profoundly challenging. The one who showed compassion to him. Yep. The inescapable conclusion from this entire narrative is that being a neighbor has absolutely nothing to do with social titles, religious standing, geography, or just mere coincidence. Being a neighbor is a verb, folks. It is defined entirely by the active, sacrificial act of showing compassion to someone in need, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Section 5, 3 ways to show kindness. Okay, let's distill this historical narrative into an applicational moral lesson that you can implement in about 5 minutes today. Derived strictly from the Samaritan's sequence of actions, these 3 steps give us a super practical daily blueprint for practicing neighborly kindness no matter who we encounter on our own journeys. First up, you have to actually look. Notice those who are hurting around you and consciously choose to feel compassion, rather than just crossing to the other side of the road. Second, use whatever immediate resources you have right now to intervene, just like the Samaritan used his own oil, wine, and his animal. You don't need some grand, elaborate plan. Just use what's literally in your hands. And third, commit to seeing their care through, even at a personal cost, because true compassion often requires follow-up, right? Just like those 2 denarii he gave to the innkeeper. And that brilliantly brings us to the final takeaway of the text. Jesus responds with a simple yet incredibly demanding command. Go and do the same. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left staring at a pretty provocative question. Whose path will you cross today? Will you look away and cross to the other side? Or you actually have the courage to step into the mess and be a true neighbor? Food for thought. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.